DreAllDay.com.
Tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, especially yourself, to go and make things happen instead of wait for things to happen. We put all this together into one framework, one philosophy, one codified system, one process. We wrote a book on the subject. We have an open enrollment university, and you're listening to the daily masterclass, all with the same name, believe it or not. That is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, sacrificing your sacred cows. What the hell does that mean? Let's get a definition. What does it mean, sacred cow? Sacred cow defined as a figurative sacred cow is a figure of speech for something considered immune from question or criticism, especially unreasonably so. This masterclass today is about what you would be willing to delete, change, or maybe even start something that you haven't been doing before, that because you previously never saw it as a possibility. So the sacred cows are basically the ideas that we have in our heads that we are not willing to question, that we are not willing to challenge, that we are not willing to change. Some things we said we would never do and we're not willing to consider doing them. Things we said we would always do and we're not willing to consider stopping them. That's a sacred cow. It's just an ingrained habit that you have, you're conscious of the habit, you know about it, and you are not willing to even think about the possibility of doing anything other than that habit as it has always been. I've always been like this way, and I'm going to keep it this way. That is a sacred cow. That's the concept that we're talking about here today, metaphorically speaking. Now, usually humans get to sacrificing our sacred cows only when we're in an urgent back to the wall situation. In those situations, we'll do anything that we told ourselves we would never do. We'll do it if the situation is urgent enough. If our back is pinned to the wall strongly enough, there are things that we've always done that we're willing to get rid of simply because our back is pinned so strongly to that wall that we have to do something different, then we would be willing to do it. Where drastic measures are required, usually we will sacrifice any sacred cow, change any habit, change any thought pattern, do anything differently just to make sure that we survive whatever that situation happens to be. So my aim today, then, is to plant some seeds in your head about sacrificing some of your sacred cows, even when things are not quite so urgent for you right now. Even if you don't have your back to the wall, you don't have a gun to your head, metaphorically speaking, hopefully, you would still be willing to look at some of your ingrained habits, some things that have just been hardened into you, and be willing to change them and edit them or play around with them or adjust them in some way, even though there's no urgency pressing against you and forcing you to do so. This is, in other words, you changing some of your ingrained habits just voluntarily, just because you chose to do so. Why? Because they'll help you go further, they'll help you do better, they'll help you get to where you want to get to, maybe faster, maybe get you even further than you thought you could get, just because you're willing to let go of some things that have been, again, just implanted in your brain by you, maybe by somebody else, but they've never been challenged, never been changed, and never been questioned. So a sacred cow can be an action, it can be an idea, it can be a person, it can be a process, it can be a routine. We've already talked about habits. It can be a way of living. A sacred cow can be any of these things. Today we're talking about sacrificing some of those cows. So when we say sacrificing a cow, we mean killing it. All right, if y'all don't understand the concept of animal sacrifice, to sacrifice, it means to kill that animal. You're sacrificing the life of that animal in order for you to get something, to get favor from the gods, to move forward, to repent for your sins, whatever it happens to be. That's what the concept of sacrificing the sacred cow means. So today let's talk about sacrificing some of those cows. Point number one, topic once again, sacrificing your sacred cows. Number one, where do you feel as if in your life you are merely treading water? Where do you feel like you're giving effort, the energy is coming out of you, but you don't really feel like any real progress is being made? You can't really see any forward movement taking place. Where are you working? Maybe you're working hard even, but you're feeling either unfulfilled, unexcited, you're not making progress, maybe even wondering why you're even still doing this thing, because it's not really producing a result, it's not really driving anything forward in your life or in your business or in your relationships, but you keep working on it, like treading water. Any of you knows how to tread water? I'm not too good at treading water, but I know what it looks like. I know what it's supposed to do, is that you use a certain amount of energy and it keeps you right there in that spot in the water. You're not moving forward, you're not moving backward, you're not ascending in the water, you're not drowning, you're just staying in that same spot, but it costs you energy to stay there. So it's costing you time and energy. All right, where do you feel like you're doing that? You feel like you're just treading water. Where are you not getting the results that you want, yet you have not made any innovations, you haven't really made any drastic changes in your approach, quantitatively or qualitatively. In other words, you haven't decided, hey, let me try doing more, or let me try doing less, or let me try doing something completely different. You haven't made any changes at all, but you're not getting the results that you want. So you're pretty much just staying in the same spot. Where do you feel like that's happening in your life? Where are you? Here's another question. There's a bunch of questions I'm asking you here in point number one. Where do you find yourself being insane? Where do you find yourself defining insanity? We all know the definition of insanity, which is, let's all say it together, doing the same thing over and over again, yet expecting a different result. These are all areas, in this point number one, all these questions that I've just presented to you, these are all areas in which you can start to suss out where your sacred cows might be living. Like, where on the pasture are the sacred cows hanging out? Because first of all, we had to identify what the sacred cows are before we decided we're going to kill them or not. And many times, as us being human beings, we're creatures of habit. We develop these sacred cows. We have raised these sacred cows. We don't even realize that they're sacred cows because they're habits, right? And I told you in my book, Work on Your Game, 85% of our thoughts and 85% of our actions are unconscious and habitual, meaning we don't even realize that we're doing them, but we keep doing them over and over again. And the very reason that they're unconscious is because we do them so often, we stop thinking about it. So first of all, we got to ask ourselves these questions because it will start to make you think a little bit differently. Hopefully some of these questions are insightful and make you think in a way that you don't normally think. So you can say, okay, you know what? Here's some areas where I'm treading water, where I'm not really getting results. I keep paying for this product, but it's not really producing anything for me. I keep going to this place, but it's not really doing anything. I keep hanging with this person, but I'm not learning anything in a conversation with them. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I should do something different here. Maybe I should do something different quantitatively, maybe do a little bit more, a little bit less, or qualitatively. Maybe do a complete shift and get rid of this and try doing this differently. Maybe that's what I can be doing. Where are you being insane in life? Meaning you're doing the same things but expecting a different result. I mean, we all have heard that definition of insanity. And again, even though all of us know it and it's easy for us to repeat it, many of us don't even realize when we're the ones who are guilty of doing it. And if you really think about it, all of us probably have some areas in our lives, since none of us is perfect. All of us have some areas in our lives where we are being insane. We keep doing stuff, it's not doing anything different. We keep expecting it to do something different, but we don't even question it when it's not doing anything. Where are you being insane? Let's move on to point number two while you diagnose your own personal insanity. Number two, today's topic, once again, is sacrificing your sacred cows. What habits do you hold dear that are not really producing forward movement for you? What are some, excuse me. What are some things that you are doing all the time? You're not really looking too hard at what kind of results they're producing, or maybe you are, and they're not really producing the results that you want. This goes right in hand with the insanity question. And the forward move is not happening, but you love doing that thing. You love that habit, but it's not getting you anywhere. Where are you doing this? This is a sacred cow. And the fact that the cow is sacred is the main reason why you don't want to kill it. You don't want to sacrifice the cow because you love the cow. It's a sacred cow. This is not a regular cow. This is not an everyday cow. This is not a throwaway one-night stand cow. This is a sacred cow. You love this cow, and that's why you hold this habit dear, even though it's doing absolutely nothing to move you where you want to go. What are you doing in your life because you've always done it that way, or because everybody else does it that way, and you are merely following your own or others' personal traditions? Where do you not need to follow tradition? Where do you not need to follow your own tradition? Where do you need to disturb yourself and do something different? Where could you possibly do something different and off the wall? Where could you do something that flies completely in the face of what you're known for, flies completely in the face of your own personal self-reputation, or what people expect from you, or what you normally do? These questions can be insights, and what will make them insights is if you don't normally ask yourself these questions, and then your willingness, combined with your willingness to play around with these questions and actually force yourself to come up with answers. That's what will make these insights. We talked about this in episode 1177. Insight is the key from going from 1x to 10x. So it's not that one particular question is insightful for everybody. What's insightful depends on who we're talking to. Insight again, episode number 1177. When we talk about disturbing yourself, that's something else that what will disturb one person may not disturb another person, but you have to be willing to ask certain questions that can lead to that disruption. Episode number 401, the topic is how to disturb the status quo and to get your way. But to disturb yourself, you got to ask yourself some questions that will probably make you uncomfortable because you have an idea. The only thing that makes a question uncomfortable is the fact that you have an idea what the answer would be, and you don't want to give that answer. That's what makes it uncomfortable. So when you ask yourself this question, what are the things that I'm doing all the time but are not really producing a result for me? The only reason that question disturbs you because you know the answer. Now, are you willing to deal with that answer? That's the question. That's the real question. Where do you not need to keep following tradition and following habit? Where could you do something different that's completely off the wall and just, that would be like, you'd be looking at yourself like you're crazy and other people would be looking at you like you're crazy? Do you know that there was a time that if somebody walked into a room and said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a phone that doesn't have any buttons. People look at that person like they were crazy. Right? They might lock you up and put you in a room with a straitjacket on if you're a person walking in and you seriously believe you could do that. But what do we have now? I'm looking at mine right now, a phone with no buttons. It was crazy at the time. What if somebody walked in a room and said, I'm going to start a restaurant, but when people come to my restaurant and they sit down at the table, there's no menu. We just bring them food, then we give them the menu after the meal's over. That sounds crazy, right? But there are restaurants who do that. There's a restaurant in Chicago called Alinea that does that. It's been noted as one of the best restaurants in America many times over. Tim Ferriss talked about it in his book, The 4-Hour Chef. What about if somebody said, I'm going to create a camera that has no film? Right? You won't have to take it to the Eckerd drugstore or the Rite Aid or the CVS to get the film developed. You know what? You get the picture immediately. Now, nowadays that seems pretty simple, right? That's pretty much ubiquitous these days, but there was a time when that sounded ridiculous. Everybody remember that? When you used to have to buy the disposable Kodaks, you only got 24 photos, you had to make the most of each one of them. What about headphones with no cord? All right, nowadays, and now some people still mess with the corded ones. I don't mess with the corded ones anymore. I do Bluetooth. But headphones with no cord, they're becoming ubiquitous. Eventually, you're not going to see anybody with the cords anymore. What about a car service that doesn't own any cars? Now we have Uber. Now we have Lyft. They don't own any. Uber and Lyft don't make cars. They don't even own any cars. All they do is play the middleman between the riders who want to ride and the people who have the vehicles. And they collect the money on every transaction. They're a car service with no cars. What about a hotel that doesn't own any physical locations? Now we got Airbnb. They don't own anything. There's no Airbnb building. Well, maybe they have an office, but they don't have any physical locations where you can go stay and sleep. But they play the middleman. All of these things that I just presented to you were all at one time sacred cow ideas. That if you're a hotel, you got to have a building. If you're a car service, you got to have cars, right? You got to have these black cars. If you have headphones, there has to be a cord that connects the listening device that goes in your ear or over your ear with the actual device that is playing whatever the sound is. If you have a camera, then of course there's film, because the film has to be developed. When I was a freshman in college, for example, one of my friends that year, she was in like a film class, and they would have to go into this dark room to develop the film because, and don't get me to trying to explain how film works, but if you have undeveloped film and you let light hit the undeveloped film, then you destroy the negatives, which were like where the film is printed on. Again, I'm already too deep into trying to explain this, but she would have to go into this dark room. I remember I went in there with her once. It was two of them, two girls who were friends of mine, and they were in this film class, and they was like, we had to go in this dark room, Dre, so we can develop the film and do whatever we have to do. So we had to go in this room, and it was completely dark, and that was the only way they were able to take the film out of the camera and out of the little can that it was in to actually get it developed and do whatever the process was, which obviously I wasn't paying that much attention because I can't explain it to you. But nowadays, all I got to do is snap something on my phone right now, and I get the picture immediately, and I don't have to go anywhere dark. But there was a time where that was a sacred cow idea. A restaurant with no menu. These days, usually you go to a restaurant, you still can see the menu, but there are restaurants who don't do this. And guess what? Those restaurants stand out from everybody else. A cell phone with no buttons. Nowadays, most of our cell phones, we don't even call them cell phones anymore, we call them smartphones, they don't have buttons on them. We don't need the buttons. Well, there's a couple buttons actually still on this phone. You got the volume button and the power button, but I'm assuming that in the next few iterations of smartphones, those will go away too. There'll be no buttons whatsoever. Eventually, we'll have cell phones with no phone. There won't even be a phone. We'll just say something or think something. Eventually we'll just think something and everything will just pop up. But anyway, we'll get there one day. But you can give me credit when that happens. The sacred cow ideas are the things that, again, people think, a lot of times people will think that you just have to have that. It has to work that way. In order for it to happen, you got to do this and you got to do that. This is just the process that you have to go through. But sacrificing that sacred cow is what can make a person stand out. I remember listening to Tony Robbins on one of his mini personal development tapes. He talked about how he initially became I don't even know what category you would put Tony in. When he went to a class to become like a certified coach, like a life coach or a psychologist. I don't even know what he was studying to be. But he went to this class where they would certify you to be a certain type, to be able to do coaching. And Tony went to a class, and it was like maybe the first or second meeting of the class. He went to it and he was really excited because he was thinking of all these ideas in his brain. They were popping off of how he could help other people. And after like the first class or the second class, he's really excited. He says to all his classmates in the class, like, hey, all right, I think I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go out and let me go find some people that I can help. And the people in the class were looking at him crazy. They were saying, well, no, you can't do it yet, Tony, because now you got to take 8 hours of this class, then you got to take this exam, then you got to get certified by the state or certified by this company, and then you can go out and try to get some clients and try to help people. And Tony said, no, I don't want to wait all that time. I don't want to have to take all these hours and then take the class and then get certified and then I can help people. I want to help people right now. And people told him he was crazy. But he said, well, forget it. I'm going to go do it anyway. And then he just went out and he just started looking for people to help. Now, I can't tell you the details of what happened from then to where he is now, but we all know who Tony Robbins is because he was willing to sacrifice the sacred cow of following the process that everybody else was following or the process that he was told he would have to follow in order to do what he wanted to do. So being willing to sacrifice that sacred cow, there's a little bit of, if you listen to yesterday's episode, a little bit of disagreeability in what Tony Robbins was saying, and Tony Robbins is Tony Robbins. So again, you can take that for what it's worth. Point number 3, today's topic once again is sacrificing your sacred cows. If you had to get rid of everything, but let's say 3 things in some specific areas of your life, what would you keep and what would you throw away? If everything had to be deleted, you had to get rid of everything, but you only get to keep 3 things. If you think about going to the gym, any of you who goes to the gym regularly, all right, you couldn't do any other exercises, but you can only keep 3. Which 3 would you do? If you look at your circle of associates and friends, and you had to get rid of all of them, but you can only talk to 3 of those people consistently from now moving forward, which 3 would you keep talking to? If you took the things that you do in your business, and people were just asking me this actually on a recent open Q&A call we had in Work on Your Game University. If I had to take all the stuff that I do as far as content creation and publishing and get rid of everything, let's say I took it down to 1 thing, what would I do? Answer to that question, by the way, would be this show that you're listening to right now. I would get rid of I wouldn't post anything video-wise, I wouldn't post anything written-wise, I would probably focus on this, if I can only do 1 thing. If you had to get rid of everything, this is a question back to you. If you had to get rid of everything, and you had to keep 3 or 2 or 1 thing, what would you keep, what would you throw away? Of the people you talk to, the exercise you do in the gym, the products and services you offer in your business. If you have multiple products in the business that you run right now, and you can only sell 1 product, which one would you sell? Then circle back to point number 2 and ask yourself if the habitual things that you are keeping around are actually doing anything for you. If you did actually get rid of them, would it actually hurt you in any way? Is it hurting your bottom line in any way right now? Answer is probably no, but you go look at it and you tell yourself. You don't have to tell me, tell you, because you're the one who has to sacrifice the cow. No, you're the one who has to cut that cow's neck. Point number 4, today's topic is sacrificing your sacred cows. Here's the call to action here. All right, try something new before you even kill the cow. All right, so you don't have to kill the cow first. First, you got to try something new so that you know that the cow can be sacrificed, because the cow is taking up space and eating all the grass and shitting all over the pasture and is not even producing anything in return. It's not giving you any ROI. Try something new before you even kill the cow. I did this when, for example, I stopped playing basketball, which I wrote about in my book, Work on Your Game, which you can get at workonyourgamebook.com. I took a week off from working out. I didn't go to the basketball gym to work on my game. I didn't record any videos for YouTube. I didn't lift any weights. I didn't do any cardio. The only exercise I did for that whole week, I remember this, I was living in South Beach, Miami at the time. I would just walk to the park right along the beach and I would do yoga every day for about 30 to 45 minutes. I did record that, but I don't think I ever even uploaded that to YouTube. I still had the footage, but I didn't upload it. I would just do yoga every day, and I would take walks on the beach, and then I would do my other work stuff that was not related to basketball. I did that for a whole week, suspecting that because the way that I had been up to that point was anytime I took even a day off from working out, or I did only one workout in a day and I didn't do 2 or 3 workouts in a day, I felt like I was cheating myself. I felt like I hadn't done enough. And I suspected that I would be stir crazy not working out so much for a whole week. But I didn't feel that way. I felt pretty normal. And that's when I knew it was time for me to walk away from the game, because I didn't have that same itch to do the work. I didn't want to keep showing up and doing the work every single day. And when I decided I didn't want to do the work anymore, it was time for me to walk away from the game. So what I suggest you do is try breaking one of your habits, one of your sacred cow habits, for a day or two, maybe a week or two, and see how you feel. See how you feel and what doors breaking that habit opens for you, mentally, emotionally, maybe even literally. See how emancipated you feel from no longer being tied to that thing that you were always doing. Maybe you're not as connected to it anymore as you used to be, but you won't know until you try it. I didn't know that it was time for me to walk away from ball until I took a week not playing ball, and I said, you know what, this actually isn't bad. I didn't feel bad at all. I said, all right, it's a wrap, it's over. I could decide that quickly. Maybe you can't decide that quick. Maybe you need to wean your way off of it, but you got to try it before you know it's time to get rid of the cow. But if you never try it, then you may keep caring for that cow. The cow might die on you. You might not even have to sacrifice it. So you had to do this experiment. So that's my call to action here, is for you to try something new before you kill the cow. Recapping today's class, which is topic once again is sacrificing your sacred cows, defined as something considered immune from question or criticism, especially unreasonably so, meaning you unreasonably are holding on to something and saying there's no way this can be questioned, there's no way I'm changing this because that's just the way that I've always done it. That is a poor, terrible, ridiculous reason to hold on to anything because you've always done it that way. Why is that ridiculous? Because the world is always changing. So if you insist on staying the same while everything else is changing, you become the museum piece who's holding on to the past while everybody else is in the future. This masterclass is about you being willing to delete, change, or start some things you have previously never seen as a possibility, which we all are willing to do when in an urgent situation and our backs to the wall. How about doing it even when you don't have urgency pressing against you? That's how you can make real change and make it now instead of waiting for a situation to occur to you. Point number 1, where do you feel as if you're merely treading water, where you're being unfulfilled, unexcited, not making progress, but you're still doing something? Where you're not getting the results that you want, but you're not innovating or making any drastic changes? Where are you being insane, doing the same things but expecting a different result? Number 2, what habits do you hold dear that are not really producing forward movement for you? What are some things that you're doing because you've always done it that way or everybody else does it that way and you're just following tradition? Where do you not actually need to do that anymore? There are plenty of companies and people, smartphones, restaurants that don't have menus, cameras that don't have film, headphones with no cord, cars, services that don't own cars, hotels that don't have physical locations. At one time, these are all sacred cow ideas until someone came along and sacrificed the sacred cow, tried something different, and now we have a new normal. Point number 3, if you had to get rid of everything, but let's say 1, 2, or 3 things in specific areas of your life, what would you keep and what would you throw away if you had to? And then once you think about that, ask yourself, what if you actually did it? Would that actually help you? Maybe the answer is yes. And number 4, call to action, try something new before you kill the cow. I did this when I was playing ball. I took a week off from playing ball, took a week off from lifting weights. I didn't feel that bad about it. That's when I knew it was time for me to walk away from it completely because I wasn't as attached to it as I had used to be. So you got to try breaking habits for a short period of time, see how you feel, what doors it opens for you mentally and emotionally, and maybe it's an insight to where you need to go next. If you want to hear the episode on Insight, again, that's 1177. And if you want to learn how you can take the things that you're doing right now, those habits, and assess them, figure out, strategize what is actually working and what's not, so that we can put a strategy in place for what is going to work, what you are going to focus on moving forward, so you can not only have your game develop, but also show your game to the world and get the ROI from your game. In other words, get paid for your game, get the attention for your game, get the results, the payback for your game that you deserve. You need to join us at Work on Your Game University by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.